the whole foundation of an Assyrian king's power is that you don't mess with him, you don't dream of it. Yeah. And if you do though, well, I've got to respond.
Yeah.
Bit like in prison, if someone disrespects you, you've got to, you absolutely, or if you're the head of a gang or something, you've got no choice.
Yeah. There have to be heads on spikes.
You've got to start going a bit crazy. Yeah. Otherwise, everything that you've got will just
people start thinking that you're not going to crucify them. And it's like, well, you can't have that. Everyone in the Assyrian Empire has to know that you could crucify them at any time.
Yeah.
For any reason you want.
Yeah, and even if it means you end up losing, you still have to throw the dice.
Yeah.
Like in prison, I suppose, if you have a fight, you may well lose it, but you have to have that fight.
Yeah.
You still have to have the fight.
You've literally got no choice.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're told that their capital, if it's not really the right word to call it a capital, but there's the city of Tushpa up in those mountains, again, modern Armenia way. So Sargon II goes up there and has some campaigns.
Yeah.
And it's, even though the Assyrian propaganda tells us how brilliant and great it was, we think that it was actually a bit of an ordeal. There's a bit more to it than sort of first meets the eye when you read the Assyrian sort of victory inscriptions and things.
It's like the Assyrian version of the Dacian Wars, right? Where it's like, this is just tough. You know, our propaganda is going to make it look like it was easy, but come on, this took us years and it was hard. These guys were not, to be messed with.
Just think, now you've said that, and the thing that's popped into my mind is obviously how difficult mountain fighting is. It puts one of Alexander's great achievements into a higher relief when he crossed the Hindu Kush. He crossed sort of the Himalayas and came back again across them.
Hannibal crossing the Alps, fighting the tribes up there. It can't be easy.
Still, I mean, even the Alps are sort of...
Nothing compared to some mountains, yeah.
Yeah, the Hindu Kush is
something else.
Something else, exactly, yeah. So anyway, we're told that the Urartu people are great horsemen, again, like steppe peoples.
Yeah.
They've got the best horses as well, quite often we're told, and they're great on them. And they've built lots of watchtowers. They've got some, we're told they've got some sort of great system for, like I think you see in some of the Lord of the Rings films where you light pyres on top of mountains in a line to send a message very quickly.
Yeah.
They've got that going on.
Very smart.
Yeah. So they're great at mountain fighting. Sounds obvious to say, but they're mountain people. But they've sort of mastered a few of the techniques.
One thing to note with the Urartu is that they've got a really unfavorable geographic location, because whenever there's going to be an invasion from Central Asia, they're pretty much the first people that have to deal with it. So if they've maintained a cohesive kingdom for a long time, which they have, they've got to have some expertise here, because the type of people that come off the steppes to the north are just awful, like genuinely awful. Like the Assyrians are awful, but at least you can reason with them. Like, okay, so if we submit and give you X number of tons of silver, you'll carry on going, great. But the people that the Urartu have had to deal with don't think that way. No, we want to eat you. We're literally going to eat you. We're literally going to rape your corpse and eat you. Because that's literally what we do. I mean, every time a steppe people comes into the light of history, they're always just the worst things that have ever existed. Like, they're just monstrous, genuinely monstrous. So yeah, at least the Assyrians have like some civilization behind their monstrosity.
There's a few places in the world, aren't there? And places like, well, what we're talking about here, the Urartu, but it's modern day, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and then into Turkey. And even places like modern day Ukraine and Belarus, and even Bulgaria, Hungary, places like that, they sort of endlessly have to deal with it.
Yeah.
They're sort of the first to have to deal with it. Places like France and Britain and Spain,
we don't even know.
Yeah, sort of saved the hassle of it all. But there you go. So Sargon II just won't stand for these Urartu incursions. Can't really. And they're quite serious. It seems they're quite serious.
Oh, yeah.
So in 714, he leads his army, gets his army together, and leads them on a circuitous route around some of the mountains, we're told. Sort of he heads east to begin with, then north, and then up into the mountains to try and surprise them. He doesn't go through the usual passes. Again, in nearly all mountain ranges, there will be a handful of passages, handful of roads.
It's totally predictable normally because it's giant sheer faces of rock. You have this option or that option.
Yeah.
And neither one's good because you can barricade them with like a dozen men.
And the Urartu know, obviously, it's their home turf. They know exactly what they're doing. So he tries to sort of outfox them, outwit them, outgeneral them by going the long way round. It's funny, even today in places like Italy and Portugal, big modern places, whole countries, there's a handful of roads.
Well, the crossing between Italy and France through the Alps there's one major crossing. And it's been like that since Julius Caesar,
Yeah. So Sargon II goes along around and apparently does catch them by surprise to some degree. But apparently the going was so hard that his men are close to mutinous or something. That they're, we don't know, we don't have all the details. There's not there's not accounts, there's no diaries survive.
There's no Thucydides of Assyria. I'm afraid.
There's no proper history. Again, I can't help but mention the same things quite often, don't I? But the Peninsular War, there's lots and lots of normal people's letters, lots and lots of diarists on both sides, or Spanish, French and English and Portuguese. So we get multiple angles of the same thing quite often. And there's like official accounts, and then there's the normal people's account. Yeah. And this is just in fantastic detail, really. And of course, it's obvious to say, we've got none of that here.
Yeah.
But it looks like they were mutinous on some level. And I think I mentioned in the last one, out of all the especially late Neo-Assyrians, Sargon II, we've actually got the most on, more than a couple of the later ones, which is interesting. Sometimes how ancient history goes. Like how we know lots more about the age of Caesar and Augustus than some later emperors.
Yeah.
It is sometimes. Just depends what survives. But there is a great inscription from the reign of Sargon II about going through mountains. And it's in that classic mould of...
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please do. Yeah.
I would look for this. So Sargon II writes, Mount Samaria is a great mountain peak that points upwards like the blade of a spear. Its summit touches the sky above, and its roots are made to reach down below to the netherworld. I mean, that is just a great opening phrase. It is not fit for the ascent of chariotry or for allowing horses, and its access is very difficult for even the passage of foot soldiers. I had my vanguard carry strong copper axes, and I cut through the high mountain crags as if they were limestone, and thereby improved the path. I took the lead of my army and made the chariotry, cavalry, and battle troops fly over the mountain as if they were brave eagles. I had the common soldiers and light infantry follow behind them. The camels and donkeys bearing the baggage leapt up its peaks like ibexes native to the mountains. I had the numerous troops of the god Asher ascend its difficult slopes in good order, and then I set up camp at the top of that mountain. Sounds like a big operation. But so you can see every bit as professional as the Roman army here. It sounds very like nothing different about that. The Assyrians have got it all figured out.
Like we said, so Sargon II is the inheritor of Tiglath-Pileser III's professional outfit. So he's got engineers. He's basically got an engineering corps or something. Yeah. And a logistics, a whole, just they're not, it's very professional.
They've got an engineering corps, a logistics corps, and as you can see, it's paying off. I mean, he has to cut his way through the mountain. And if he didn't have these things, it's entirely likely he couldn't have had this campaign.
Yeah. And it's also that thing of survives much, much later into the ancient world of I've sort of conquered the mountains. I've conquered the sea. The Romans thought like that. You can conquer the sea.
Yeah.
You can conquer mountains just like a city.
Yeah.
And here you say it's like that, isn't it?
I love the way he describes the numerous troops of the god Asher. Like, that's a really interesting way of viewing themselves. Well, we're the soldiers of Asher. It's like that's like we've said previously. Everything in the ancient world was also religious. They don't define themselves outside of religion. They can't. And so, how are you? Who are you? Well, we're the troops of the god Asher. So every war we engage in is a religious war. Like, you've got to understand.
Yeah. And quite often there's something else Napoleon said is sort of every time I fight or every time I take the field, it's all in. I'm pushing all my chips in. I've either got to win or I will win or it's nothing. Or I may as well give in.
Yeah.
The Assyrians aren't exactly like that, but there's an element of that to it. Like you put everything on the table. You know, you put the reputation of the god Asher on the table every time.
Yeah, they don't do things by half measures, do they?
All right, yeah. We can't really be seen to lose.
Yeah. The god Asher wins everything all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the standard we've set for ourselves.
Because the Egyptians were also like that. Yeah, they never lost, apparently.
Wow.
They were just, if they do lose or something, it's just never mentioned. We just don't ever talk of it.
Yeah.
You know.
But the Assyrians actually don't seem to lose until the very end.
Rarely. Well, Sargon II sort of nearly does here. So he gets a pitched battle. He does get one. And it looks like his troops would not attack. They sort of refuse to, or they're not in good enough shape to.
Really?
Yeah, maybe there's some sort of loss of morale or esprit de corps or something. So we're told Sargon himself and his sort of his hand-picked guard just charge forward on their own. And maybe that shames, that's a thing in wars quite often. You shame your own men into following you. Yep. And they do. And anyway, they win the day. Long story short on that one. They do win the day against the Urartu host. And so that's quite a big one because that could have gone wrong. Well, very nearly went wrong, it seems. But he does, Sargon II does bring the Urartu back sort of under his yoke.
And this is fairly unusual as well, because I can't think of any other examples of the Assyrian army being mutinous.
Well, we don't hear of it.
Well, yeah, we don't hear of it, yeah. You know, so just unusual, isn't it?
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.